Hello everyone, Loki is finally here. We have been burdened with the glorious purpose of this series, and I cannot wait to give you my review of episode 1. This first episode of Loki genuinely blew my socks off. Now, I know we all thought I was going to say that because obviously I'm a huge Marvel fan and obviously I'm a huge Loki fan. So am I surprised that I loved this? No. But am I surprised how much I genuinely loved this? Yes. I really think that after the first two shows, Marvel is hitting its stride with its television series, and we're going to get into all the reasons why I feel that way. My review, just for those who might be new to the channel, I thoroughly enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I definitely preferred WandaVision to Falcon and Winter Soldier. I was really a fan of the sitcom vibe. I really liked the early episodes of WandaVision, but I see people's faults with both series. In case this might be the first time you're seeing my face, which if so, please be sure to subscribe down below. I'm going to be doing weekly reviews of Loki, and over on the Fanatic Film channel with Jack, I am going to be doing Loki lives every Wednesday evening. So there's gonna be a lot of Loki content and a lot of Marvel stuff coming your way, especially now that this is our third show. So be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And while you're at it, you could like this video and leave a comment down below about your opinion of the episode, because I genuinely want to know. The very first thing I want to talk about with this episode is the mise-en-scène. If you don't know what mise-en-scène is, it is a French term that means on the stage, or things that are in front of the camera in film and television. So anything from the actors' performances, to the lighting, to the set design, to the costumes, to all that kind of stuff. And this series really nails its mise-en-scène, its aesthetic, if you will. It is a trippy, 70s, futuristic, spacey kind of vibe, and I love it. I do really like the design of the show, the feel that it gives you of this place that feels totally foreign. It's not fully spacey, it's not fully earthy, it's like this weird in-between state, which is exactly what the TVA is supposed to be. The other thing I really liked about this, which really influences the 70s vibes slash makes me feel this way because of the 70s vibes of the production design, is how much this reminds me of Mindhunter. Now, obviously in Mindhunter, it is based on true stories of true transcripts from real serial killers. It's a fantastic series from David Fincher. If you've never seen it, it's on Netflix. But Mobius's interest in Loki and different variants feels very much like the FBI's interest in serial killers at the time, because they interviewed past serial killers so that they could find psychological patterns, find motives for killings that they could set aside into a case study for serial killers, so that they could hopefully catch the next person before they did it, as opposed to after too many lives were lost. This feels very similar with Mobius's interest in different variants, specifically Loki, which we find out by the end of the episode. He's interested in Loki because he's hunting Loki. But I thought that aspect was really interesting. The sit-down interview really worked. I just feel like it was so brilliant in the way that the dialogue was slated, in addition to telling the story, exploring the TVA, understanding what we're getting ourselves into with this series. For my 3 best pieces of writing for this episode, because I have to shout out Michael Waldron, who is the executive producer and writer of this episode. I believe he's the head writer of Loki. He is a UGA alum, which is so exciting. He killed it this episode. The 3 pieces of writing that I really want to lay out, because they were brilliantly executed. I think the soul of these scenes and the real punch that they leave is from the writing, so I really want to highlight that. The first being the Infinity Stones in Casey's drawer. Both a funny bit, but an insane moment of realization for Loki that he has been hunting one Infinity Stone. Now, seeing that they just have all these Infinity Stones lying around in a drawer or being used as paperweights, it's the first moment we realize that maybe the power that I've been after is not all that great, or it's been a fruitless pursuit, or it's just been kind of dumb, because all of these Infinity Stones are right here, rendered useless. That is the turning point for Loki of when he realizes that the TVA might be powerful. The next most powerful moment, which is directly following this, is when Loki zaps himself back into the projector room and he watches both of his parents admit that they accept him as their son and immediately die. That is extremely powerful. Those were extremely powerful scenes when we saw them as fans. It was really interesting to see it in these eyes of a Loki who's never experienced these things, believes his parents to still be alive, and technically in the 2012 timeline they would have been, but he's not going to be able to prevent anything. He sees that these things are already going to come to pass. He understands at this point the sacred timeline and its inevitability. And I think what's so interesting and trippy about this show is that moment is something that he's impacted and changed as a character by things that already happened to him as a character. How cool is that to repurpose those events for something completely brand new and to set us up on a path, remind us of where we've been without saying like we have to stick to this. That is so cool. That is such a good piece of writing. That was executed perfectly, performed perfectly by Tom Hiddleston. Probably my favorite scene in the whole episode. The last thing, once Mobius catches up to him in the room and shows back up with the staff, Loki admits that he is a weak person using power and control to invoke fear in people and to then have more power and control. This is something that I have loved about Loki since 2009, 2010 when the first Thor movie came out. I recognize these things about him. I think a lot of people on Tumblr and those really early blogging days of the MCU kind of created this character in their mind. The same way people had done with Bucky, made a character that doesn't maybe have as much plot importance, giving them a lot of like detail and depth and all those kind of things. And I think that was all there in the initial Loki, especially in Tom Hiddleston's performance of him. But we've never really gotten to see it come to fruition in the same way. And I think having him speak those things to Mobius, who kind of already knows them to be true, such a good moment and such a great succinct version of like who Loki is. And the fact that he was able to sum that up in the first episode, because initially when they were doing that like therapy scene or like Mobius is trying to get Loki to answer questions, I was kind of scared that stuff was going to carry over into future episodes a little too much and the whole thing was going to be like, what is Loki's purpose? And they didn't do that, and I'm so glad they didn't do that, because it almost just right up front was like, this is what we're going with. He recognizes this. It caught the character up to speed where we are with the character, which is so smart, because with WandaVision, we all knew she was the Scarlet Witch. That was not a shock, a surprise. No one even really questioned how she became the Scarlet Witch, and then we get this like thing that we think is going to be new information, and it's almost an origin story that we already understood. So the fact that they're not doing that with Loki, really appreciated that. That's what I think is so great about this episode as a pilot. We get the exposition of Loki as a character, where he is going forward from this series. We get a very succinct and simplified version of the thread of the multiverse and what the TVA does and the sacred timeline and all that kind of stuff with the timekeepers. I think that Miss Minutes bit was so good, so funny. I love the references to older television that these Marvel shows are making. I think it makes me feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be in a TV histories class. That's what this episode in a pilot episode of a show is supposed to do, just because of the way it reintroduces you to the character, even though we've already known him, and it really just establishes what information is important and what is not. If you disagree, please comment down below. I would love to hear what you thought, especially if you disagree, because I think the consensus pretty much across the board right now is that this first episode of Loki killed. I haven't watched a lot of other people's reviews yet. I've just seen the like non-spoiler stuff that came out last week. Last but not least, before you click off this video, I was trying to come up with some like cute, kitschy names for categories in this, the way I do the High School Musical, the series reviews, and I was like, nah, scrap that. The only thing that I could come up with was Tesseract takes. So my hot takes or predictions for the series, the only thing I have is that I think the future version of Loki is Lady Loki. Now, do I really have the right to be making this take? No. I was the person that in my trailer reaction for Loki, which if you haven't seen it, I'll card it up above, I was like, that's Natasha, and everyone's like, that's Lady Loki, you don't know anything about the comic. Now for me to be like, oh, that's Lady Loki in the future seems a little bit like I'm taking someone else's idea, which I probably am. I'm not claiming it to be super original. I'm just saying, I think that would explain a little bit more of like why we're getting a masked hooded figure, even though we're supposed to know that that's Loki. Maybe Mobius is lying, but I'm pretty convinced that that's going to be the way Sophia DiMartino, who pretty much everyone but Marvel knows is Lady Loki. Marvel just hasn't admitted it. I guess they could pull something out from under our rug, but fans seem to be pretty good about catching these kind of things. So I am very interested to see how that all plays out and how this future version of Loki, who is like massively killing the TVA, is that a branch of this variant of Loki? Is it like, what is going on? I want to know. I'm super excited. I like that we already know who the villain is up front and that it could just be a variation of what we know. That is my review of the episode. As you can tell by however long this is, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, I loved it. I could talk about this a million more times. I am going to be talking about it tonight with Jack over at the Fanatic Films channel. We're going to be doing a live stream, so be sure not to miss it. What did you guys think about Loki? Please let me know down in the comments. Are you feeling excited for the future of the show? Are you nervous it's gonna go downhill? Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Imagine just Doctor Strange showing up at this TVA place all the time. Like, the most stones that were in that drawer were the time stone, And just imagine Casey just being like, oh, hey, Steven, like they're on a first name basis or something. That's just kind of hilarious to me. So just something to chew on until next week's episode. Bye, guys.